Part 107 of Los Angeles Superior Court, State of California is now in session. The Honorable Michael E. Pastor, Judge presiding. Please be seated.
Thank you, Deputy Jones. On the case of People versus Conrad Murray, Dr. Murray is present with his counsel, Mr. Chernoff, Mr. Flanagan, Mr. Pena at the time. Mr. Gorgian will be back in a moment. The People by Ms. Brazil and Mr. Walgan. All the jurors and the alternates are present. Good morning, everybody. I understand there was a very minor transportation issue this morning. No big deal as far as all of you are concerned. So please understand that. I'm sorry there was some slight inconvenience. After that, the counsel and I have been discussing some matters to make your job hopefully a little bit easier. So we're on the record, and we're going to resume with the case. Thank you. Good morning to counsel and Dr. Murray. And at this time, the People may call their next witness.
Thank you. The People call Stacey Ruggles.
Want me to get it?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. Please state your name for the record. Spell your first and last names.
Stacey Ruggles, Stacey-Ruggles.
Thank you. Direct, please, Ms. Brazil.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Do you recognize the defendant, Conrad Murray, seated here in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you. In fact, he is your employer, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you worked for him?
Since 1997.
I'd like to direct your attention to June 25th of 2009. Your Honor, may I ask the court judicial assistant to turn the lights down, please?
Mrs. Benson? Thank you.
Ma'am, are you able to see the screen up there?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to direct your attention to a phone call entry in yellow where my pen is. Do you see that at 10:34 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your telephone number, 619-994-3233?
It was, yes.
Was it your phone number on June 25th of 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak with your employer, Conrad Murray, on June 25th, 2009?
Yes, ma'am.
And the conversation was approximately 8.5 minutes, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then at 11:07, you called Conrad Murray back, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak with him when you called him back?
I believe so.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Ms. Brazil, thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Chernoff, would you like the lights on or off? On, please. And the exhibit's been removed.
Ms. Ruggles, when you said you believe so, do you know so?
Yes.
Okay. What was the conversation about?
Objection. Calls for hearsay.
The objection's overruled. You may answer.
To let him know that I sent the email.
Okay. Very brief conversation?
That was it.
Okay. Ms. Ruggles, when I want to take you away from June 25th and ask you several questions about something that occurred earlier than that.
Okay.
Do you recall a period of time where you were enlisted to help Dr. Murray open up a medical office in Houston, Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell us when that was?
Beginning of 2005.
Okay. And can you please tell us the circumstances of that opening of that office?
Yes, Dr. Murray wanted to work in opening an office for, in memory of his father, to serve the community of Acres Home.
Okay. And this was you. What was your job with regard to opening of that office?
I would sift through the documents involving the different locations in which we were looking at to possibly be the office.
Okay. And were you ultimately capable of opening up that office?
Yes. We began the process in the following year in June.
Okay. And when was the opening of that?
I believe it was July 10th.
Okay. Now, during the period, July 10th of what year?
2006.
All right. Now, prior to that office being open, Dr. Murray saw patients solely in Las Vegas. Would that be correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And after the office opened in Houston, what was Dr. Murray's schedule at that time?
Excuse me, prior to?
After the opening of the office in Houston?
After the opening of the office in Houston, he would go every other week. So he'd be in Las Vegas every other week. So 1 week Las Vegas, 1 week Houston.
And the nature of the practice, his medical practice, was the same in Houston as it was in Las Vegas?
Can you rephrase that?
Well, was he a cardiologist? Both places he treated people with heart conditions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, would it be fair to say, Ms. Ruggles, that the office in Houston, the makeup of the office, the individuals that he treated in Houston were substantially different than the types of patients he saw in Las Vegas?
Oh, yes, sir.
What would be the difference?
Most of them were indigent, were on fixed incomes, were unable to afford a physician.
And during the period of time that Dr. Murray ran that Houston office, were there many patients that he saw?
Yes, sir.
Was there high volume?
Yes, sir.
And during that period of time, can you tell us whether or not Dr. Murray was profited from that arrangement in Houston, Texas?
No, sir.
When you say no, can you be more specific?
Well, from what I could see, there was very minimal amount of income that came in from that office during that period of time.
And that was in large part because of the individuals that he chose to see?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chernoff, thank you. Redirect exam, Ms. Brazil. Oh, Mr. Chernoff?
I do. I'm sorry. Real quick.
Yes, and Mr. Gorgian is present for the record. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. When did you first learn of Dr. Murray deciding to work with Michael Jackson and go to Europe? When did you first learn of that?
I believe it was April of 2009.
And were you involved at all in the operation to try to get another cardiologist in there to take care of his patients?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the process what was that process like, please?
Objection, relevance.
Sustain.
Did you talk to any doctors?
Objection, relevance.
I'll sustain the objection. 350, 352.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chernoff, thank you. Ms. Brazil, redirect.
Thank you. In June of 2009, Conrad Murray was operating a clinic in Las Vegas and a clinic or medical practice in Houston, correct?
Yes.
Only those two locations. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Brazil. Recross, Mr. Chernoff?
No, thank you.
Thank you. May the witness be excused subject to recall, Ms. Brazil?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chernoff?
Yes, Judge.
Thank you. Ms. Ruggles, I want to thank you for your testimony. Please do not discuss your testimony of the facts of the case with any other witnesses until we finish the trial. You may step down and leave. However, you are to remain on call, and that means you're subject to recall up and through the end of the trial if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.